Matthew Tkachuk falls on top of Jack Campbell. The media blows it up, saying Tkachuk is up to his usual antics.
What a guy.
And he probably was, even though he totally denied it and said, oh, whatever, I was just battling in front of the net. We all know what Matthew Tkachuk was doing. So next game on Tuesday against the Calgary Flames, Leafs win, the buzzer goes, and amazing. Jake Muzzin, the hero we all needed,
amazing,
comes in, flips the puck at Matthew Tkachuk, trolling the biggest troll in the league. I loved it, Lepore. I thought it was fantastic. Man. I've been waiting for that from the Leafs. We need someone who's just going to go out there, piss people off, and make sure that you cannot fuck with this team at all. And I know it was just a little troll, and it wasn't really a big thing in the grand scheme of things, but I loved that from Jake Muzzin. It was amazing.
What makes it so awesome to me is that it's because it was so subtle. It's not a punch in the face or a cross check. It's just that little like flip of the puck. Fuck you, we won. And like and everyone knows in any environment you're in, that's just enough to send you wild. And to me, it's so funny. Like you see that situation with Tkachuk, and number one, of course, he's going to deny it. And then you have people debating, arguing whether he did it on purpose. Oh, so it was a coincidence that it just happened to be Tkachuk. It's like when something amazing happens, and like I'll say it, like a few years ago, that crazy Ovechkin goal when he was laying on the ice and he put it behind his head. People say like, oh, it was a fluke. I'm like, so it was just a coincidence that it was Ovechkin who did something that amazing? Like, no. So we're allowed to assume what we assume when it comes to things that we've seen before. So number one, Tkachuk 100% did it on purpose. Then number two, that flip of the puck. Did you see the response? Yeah, we're going to call out a fan base here on Gluttons for Punishment. Did you see the response from some of the Flames fans calling what Jake Muzzin did like atrociously dangerous?
Oh yeah,
like
that's
like
just
guys,
embarrassing.
Yeah, guys, come on, like putting your hands up, being like, do you know how dangerous that was? You could have got it in the face. Like, oh my god, please. But just to see that, and knowing exactly what he was doing, knowing that it would rattle his fucking cage, knowing that it would start the scrum afterwards, that he knows Tkachuk's going to stand up for himself, but he didn't care. That's so awesome. That is so awesome for the team. And again, going Don Cherry again for the second time in this episode, it's such a good thing to see for the team to say like these guys are together, these guys care, and then to see all the Leafs players skate in after and whatever. And Tkachuk was by himself, and we'll talk about that. But like I think it was something so small, but something that shows a lot about Muzzin and about the team and about the group. And again, like something positive for Leafs fans to talk about. Because like let's be honest, like we didn't see that stuff in recent years. Because let's say it, like he said, "Fuck you." Like he gave the middle finger to Tkachuk, saying like, "You did this to our goalie, and well, we won, so fuck you." Like I love it. By the way, my wife told me I'm only allowed 2 fucks an episode. So I think we've already passed that.
Already hit the over on that pretty hard.
I think she forgot that this is a podcast about the Toronto Maple Leafs. So yeah, we're way over the F-bomb limit. But yeah, what was your take on the whole thing?
But yeah, so here's the thing with Matthew Tkachuk. I love the way he plays.
Oh, of course you do. Yeah.
And if you're any team in the National Hockey League, you would love for that guy to be on your team.
100%.
Because not only is he an amazing troll, an amazing pest, he's also a very good hockey player as well, which people tend to forget sometimes when it comes to guys like, Matthew Tkachuk or Brad Marchand. Like these guys are really good players,
and they're rare breeds in today's NHL. Those guys don't exist anymore. We said if we go back to the 80s and 90s, we could list 10 or 20 of those guys. Now there's 4 or 5. That's it.
Exactly. There's just not a lot of those guys out there. And to have one of those guys, I think is just so important. And listen, I'm not putting Jake Muzzin, in the same tier as a player like Matthew Tkachuk in terms of what they bring to the overall game. But just having guys like Jake Muzzin and Wayne Simmons who aren't afraid at all of anybody, and they'll get in your face, they'll fight someone, they'll throw a big hit, they'll troll the biggest troll in the league like we saw Jake Muzzin do. And I think it just sends a message. And again, I don't want to blow this out of proportion and say, this is incredible. This is the greatest in Leafs history. But seriously, like we have not seen this from the Leafs in so long. Like I have to go back to like the Darcy Tucker days where, he was essentially like Matthew Tkachuk, right? where he loved pissing people off and chirping, and he just wouldn't shut his mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to have a guy like Jake Muzzin on the blue line, because if you think about the rest of the Leafs blue line, right? Morgan Rielly, TJ Brody, Bogosian, Dermott, like none of these guys are sort of like in your face guys. And sure, maybe you can point to a guy like Zach Bogosian who likes to rough it up a little bit. But for the most part, Jake Muzzin is the guy that has that identity on the Leafs blue line. And he's essentially the guy that brings that identity onto this team, right? I think it's pretty much him and Wayne Simmons, right? So I love seeing that. And I think come playoff time, just to know that, listen, you cannot fuck with us. That's what I like to see. And even if it takes a little moment, like flipping a puck at someone to send a message, I thought it was great. And I can't wait until those teams play again, because I think that this is just going to escalate into a bigger and bigger rivalry with the Leafs and Flames. And think about, this is a team that the Leafs don't, normally play, obviously, right? I mean, they play them a couple times a year, but now you're going to be playing this team 9 to 10 times in a season like this. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this turns into moving forward.
Yeah, I'm like you. Like, I'm not saying like, oh my God, this is amazing, this is going to make us such a better team. But for me, where it hits, and I'm sure it hits for a lot of Leafs fans, is that if you roll back to when we were playing Boston and losing to the Bruins, there was always that stuff after the whistle and like, that late hit they would do where a little jab to the face and those little things, or something like what Muzzin did, like something that like a Brad Marchand would do or whoever would do on the Bruins. And deep down, Leafs fans knew that we didn't have that. Like, we all knew that at this, the Bruins are better than us and they're going to get away with it. And they know exactly what they're doing. And we were always kind of insecure about it. So again, I'm not looking at it as a huge deal. They're like, oh yeah, we have this now. This is our identity. It's just, it's nice to see. But like, I'll get your take on this, because we talked about the pests. Like, you brought up like the Brad Marchands, and like I think of like guys like Sean Avery. Did you see that footage after of how rattled Tkachuk got?
Oh my God. He was like,
he lost his mind.
Max rattled. Dude was slamming the bench, acting like.
That's what was weird to me, because I look back and the whole thing about being a pest is that you don't care. You know what I mean? Like, almost like no matter what happens, you don't care. Like, I've never seen Brad Marchand lose it like that, to my memory. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember him ever like losing it after something like that happened. Guys like Sean Avery. So like, I did find it weird that, he's used to this stuff all the time. Like, usually he dishes it out, he can take it. I don't know. Like, he went off. Like, one thing that they talked about on the panel on Hockey Night in Canada, I don't know if you saw it. They thought maybe it was because he was kind of left on an island. Like, that puck got flipped at him, and then, whatever starts, and he was kind of fighting the Leafs like 1-on-3. And maybe because, his teammates didn't see what was going on, they were skating away. Like, do you think that was it? That maybe he was more, like, his brain was isolated on that as opposed to what actually happened between him and Muzzin?
Yeah, I heard them bring it up on the Hockey Night in Canada panel, saying that maybe his teammates didn't come to his defense. And I think that maybe did have something to do with it, because like you said, Matthew Tkachuk is a guy who, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's very calculated. And even though he does a lot of these, crazy antics and pisses people off, he's always in control, right? He doesn't let any of these guys get to him. Even going back to like the Drew Doughty rivalry, right?
That was amazing.
Or even with Zach Kassian, he just always has that smirk on his face, and he's just in control of the situation. And to see him just lose his shit, and he's slamming the gate and throwing things, in the bench area as he's heading to the locker room, and Muzzin was just swimming in his head. Muzzin was totally in his head. And I think it was a combination of things. I think it was, he just realized, oh my God, someone just Matthew Tkachuk'd me. Number one. And then number two, he probably looked around and said, where are my teammates? And it's not like his teammates weren't there. Like, the scrum ensued afterwards. And I don't know if he was expecting one of his teammates to start throwing bombs and start whacking shins and things like that. Like, I don't know what he was expecting, but I could see that that's maybe why he was thrown off a little bit. But it was just so nice to see a guy like that just finally get rattled.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And it's like you said, right? It's not like this is changing the identity of the Toronto Maple Leafs, but you made a really good point saying how Leaf fans, I think, have been insecure about this because they've always known that other teams can do this to the Leafs, but that the Leafs really didn't have the ability to strike back when things like this happen, especially when you look at those Bruins series, right, with Brad Marchand. So yeah, overall, I think we can both agree, Lepore, that was a great sight to see as a Leaf fan.